And niggas will get you shot too. Come with the cleaning crew, you kick the bucket when they mop you. So fuck the streets and the system guarding elites. With military police, got people scary to speak. Tell your story, tell your story, tell your story. Can't nobody tell it better, paint the glory. So tell your story, tell your story, tell your story. Better you than people finding out on more. So tell your story, tell your story, tell your story. Can't nobody tell it better, paint the glory. So tell your story, tell your story, tell your story. Better you than people finding out on more. Tell your story, man.
Hello, and welcome everybody to our virtual artist storytelling, where we have our guest here, James Harvey, to give his success story. You're right. Let me just get this. Well, yes, we gonna wait for him to get back in. But if you guys don't know, this is where we give our success stories on the virtual artist storytelling, and we do have our guest back in. Let me make sure he's the center. Oh, let me do this. Why is it not? There we go. All right, but yes, sir, the floor is yours. I'm sorry you kind of missed our introduction, but the floor is yours. If we have any questions, the facilitators will make sure we get that known. But other than that, you can just go ahead and start from the beginning, sir.
Sure. Well, I mean, if you guys want me to tell a little bit about my story, my story definitely starts in the East Side. I was pretty much born and raised in the East Side of Denver. I grew up across the street from Manual High School. So, a lot of my ideas and the person that I am pretty much revolves around that neighborhood. Now, one thing about my story is that it's very diverse. I've had the opportunity to be around street people, to be around, business people, to be around Black people, white people, Hispanic people. And I've kind of molded myself through all of these different experiences that I've gotten. So once again, my story starts in the East Side. I grew up once again across the street from Manual High School. I went to Whittier Elementary. That's where I started my schooling. But then, I actually was bused to Hallett Elementary School, which was in Park Hill. So, it's funny because I mentioned my affinity for the East Side and where I grew up and where, I lived my whole life. But I also had two sets of grandparents who lived in Park Hill. So a lot of who I am, also comes from, Park Hill and that community. I spent a lot of time on right around 28th and Elm, and I had grandparents on Martin Luther King and Monaco. So, I came back and forth, and, that was because I had people on both sides. I always saw people from Park Hill as, my brothers or my cousins. I never really separated us. Of course, there's going to be that separation or some separation just because of the history between neighborhoods and, the competition between the two. But because I always had family in Park Hill and, I grew up in the East Side, I never really separated us. We were always just all Black people to me, always Black people looking for more, looking for a better way. And, some of the silly division that happens because of, living in different neighborhoods. I mean, it's just a part of life, but that was always something that I always hoped that we could get away from, just because at the end of the day, we all trying to fight, survive, and, achieve the same things. So, once again, because my upbringing was so diverse and I had the opportunity to be in pretty much both of these neighborhoods, and I would say I probably spent about more like 70% on the East Side, 30% in Park Hill. I'm always seeing us as brothers. It's also crazy because my family is very diverse. My mother, she is the youngest of 6 children. She is now 65 years old and all of them are still living. Which is one of the biggest blessings that I can ever account for, just miracles that I can ever see, that I've ever seen in my life. So because of that, I grew up really revering my grandfather. He owned his own business. He actually worked for the real world for a long time, but he owned his own business, a landscaping company. So, my whole life I grew up, when I would see my grandfather, just paying attention to his work ethic and the different things that, he the different goals that he set in front of himself, and how he made sure that his family was taken care of and always provided for. So he was a hell of an influence on my life. Just watching him and his discipline, and then just seeing what he achieved. I mean, now on the flip side, on my dad's side of the family, and I want this to be known too, I respect both sides of the family, but they are very different. And I say they're slightly different just because, once again, my grandfather, he was more of a businessman, whereas my dad's side of the family, they kind of fell into the street type of life. So, where I did see the business side of things, I also saw, where things could go if, you ended up actually, set up. I made that for you. And where you were actually, thank you, buddy. You want the high, and I put it for you. Okay, Daddy's got to talk just a second. Thank you, Mama. But I also got an opportunity to once again see the other side of life, where if you don't handle your business and you're caught up in the drugs and in just vice, where that can take your family also. So once again, my upbringing was extremely diverse because I had all of these different things to pull from. So even though my dad's side of the family, they kind of fell a little bit more to drugs and the alcohol and things of that nature, I also got to see, the camaraderie, the love, and different things on that side of the family that also molded me into being the man that I am. So, despite the fact that my dad's side of the family is more street people, I still very much revere who they are and what they were able to accomplish, and also what they were able to teach me. So in no way did I ever, see or look down on any side of my family. I just, always got an opportunity to just pull from the good and in both sides and choose what, I saw as a man to be, the best things to take. Now, when we talk about my schooling and my upbringing, I grew up in the East Side when it was all Black. There were no white children on my block. There were never any white children that were at, any of the parks and stuff that we used to go to. And I don't say that, in a bad way. It's just, I grew up seeing a neighborhood that was completely run and occupied by Black people. Now, with that being said, I also was bused into predominantly white neighborhoods to go to school. So, I was sent to Park Hill, but that was still predominantly Black. But after I was sent to Park Hill and went to Hallett Elementary, I was sent to Steck Elementary in Cherry Creek. And at Steck, and even at Hallett in some sorts, I was around a lot of white kids, you know what I mean? And I went through a couple of racist instances, but I actually had a lot of white people actually take to me and actually, really provide and show me different things, or, want to actually accept me into their home in a certain way. And, to be honest with you, I always, when I look back on those times, I have to give my mother the most credit in molding my personality in a way where I could move within the hood and within high society, and I never, ever, despite the fact that even coming from the hood, I never looked down on myself as a Black man. I never looked down on my people. And I always had a huge level of pride. You know what I mean? So, with that being said, when I would even mingled around white people, it was never from a less than standpoint. I could always look people in the eye. I could always talk eloquently to people and communicate with people, because my mother, she was like this strength in me that taught me, who I was. And despite the fact that I may have come from a different background, that I always was, definitely worthy of success and worthy of more. So even when I maneuvered around with white people and people in different races, it was always just from an educational standpoint. And, I had some great experiences. But, one thing that when I think about the times that I spent around white people that it really opened my life up to, was just wondering why so many white people, why you go to Cherry Hills and you see these people providing for their families, or, putting their kids in the best schools, being able to travel to Europe and, to South America. I remember being a little kid, like in first, second grade, riding in the car with some of my white friends and just overhearing the conversation from their father talking about how much money they were taking when they were going to France for, a winter break or something like that. So, I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, you can finish your thought actually.
Okay. Well, I mean, with that said, when I was around these different things, it always did make me question sometimes why my people weren't able to achieve or experience the same success, why we were stuck in drug filled and drug overridden neighborhoods and struggling, whereas the other side was, able to provide for their people in a way to where everybody was comfortable. So, I mean, I had a lot of those thoughts on my mind, and it always intrigued me about business. So, that's one of the main things that made me want to become a businessman outside of my mother's father, my grandfather, who also I learned some serious lessons from. Does anybody have any questions, or should I continue?
Yes, sir. We have two, or really three. I have two questions. So I was just curious to know, my first question, like, how did having the business kind of background from, I believe you said your dad's side of your
No,
family?
so it's actually my mother's side, my mother's father.
Okay, so I'm sorry, how did having that business side or a business background and then having the streets background shape you?
Man, I think it definitely shaped me because, all right, so when I look at my dad's side of the family, and even when I look to a lot of families who, ended up living more of a street life, it's not something that was necessarily a choice. It was something more of, these are circumstances that they were given, so they tried to make the best of it. So one thing that always molded me about street people was their creativity. You'll never find anybody more creative than people on the street, and people who come from nothing and are trying to, literally make something out of nothing. I used to my grandfather, my uncle, and I had an Uncle Dick, and I only talked to him a couple of times. He was a lot older than me, and one of the times that I went to go talk to him, it was towards the end of his life, and I'll never forget him mentioning my father, because he thought about my father, because me and my father laughed the same. My father's deceased now, but he laughed, and he just thought about my dad, and he was just like, man, that boy can make something out of nothing. And literally, that's just the circumstances that they were given and what they dealt with. And when I think about this, these people were somewhat, I revere them almost like magicians. Me and Phil, we always talk about, the responsibility of Black people to take responsibility of our actions, and, the drug culture and crack cocaine and, all of what we went through because of that. But, at the same time, these people, and I always get back and feel, I'm telling this, I just think that these people were forced to do a lot of what they had to do. And because of that, something good did come out of that. It wasn't just all bad. Like I said, their inventiveness and ability to stay positive when in the face of the worst circumstances is what always keeps me positive. You could do nothing to beat my spirit, because I already know that I can come back from the worst circumstances, because I watch people such as my father and, other people in my family have to go through the worst. Now, when you talk about my dad, my mother's father, what motivated me, and, because a lot of people assume that he like pulled us to the side and, would just like give us business game. And that wasn't really what it was, because, my grandfather, he was like, he was a 12 to 15 hour a day worker, you know what I mean? So he wasn't around just to, just talk to kids. And when he was around, he wanted his time to, rest. But I watch. If you just put me in front of anything that's successful, then I think that one of my gifts is that I can sit and pay attention and break it down in a way where I can know the steps in order to do that. So watching my grandfather gave me a lot of motivation, because just seeing him in his day-to-day duties and seeing him never fall for decades, and keep his family on top because of his work ethic, that just rubbed off in just naturally. So from my grandfather and my mother, it's the work ethic and the stick-to-itiveness and the ability to just stay focused on one task that really pushes me. And then with my father and what he came from is the inventiveness and the confidence to know that despite the fact that you may not have been given much, that you can create, the biggest empire out of nothing. So that's really how those two influenced me.
That's real. I mean, and you kind of answered my second question through speaking, but just for like the sake of asking it, what were some similarities that you've seen between the two?
Say that one more time. The similarities that I seen to what?
But just between the two backgrounds, the business and the streets background.
Similarities. You know what, man? And when I talk about when I really think about the similarities between both sides of the family, it's crazy. It was love. You know what I mean? Really. I try to tell people all the time that you can't tell me that there's no man on this earth that wakes up in the morning like, I want to fail. I want to do bad today. You know what I mean? I think that it can become a habit. I think it can become, a cycle that you just sucked into. But I think that everybody is just doing the best for themselves and their family. So when I say that, it was just two different types of love. And see, you have to know how to love correctly in order to push people. So my mother, she got a lot of love, but my grandfather, she got more of a mix of balanced love. She got tough love, but then she had my grandmother, her mother, there to balance it and, give her, some, more tenderness. But she got the tough love from my grandfather to make her know that she had to stay focused and she had to, be the type of woman or, her brothers to be the type of men that people could depend on. You know what I mean? But it was that tough love and, sometimes that disciplined love that isn't hard to get, that is hard to give sometimes, because sometimes you just want to, take people in your arms and, hold them. But sometimes you got to force people to go out there and do that, and stay to it and force people to go through things the hard way in order to realize that, nothing is going to be easy. Now, I think that's the love that my mother got. But my father, he got a lot of love. But see, his father died early into his life. So his mother was an alcoholic herself. So my father was raised pretty much by my grandmother, and she gave him a lot of love, but it was enabling type of love. So when he would mess up, she would just take him in. She would never force him to recognize his own faults or to, stand up and, just really face, what he had to go through. She would always be his crutch. So the similarity is, to me, is that all of these people were just trying to do the best by their family and love their children. But, some tactics in love, even though you're trying to do the right thing, can actually, backfire. And, if you're always being soft on people, it can make them, unable to, to see themselves as somebody that can be depended on.
No doubt. Oh, yep.
Thank you. I want to tap in with you. You speak highly on your mom. You know what I mean? And I know there's a lot of parents and a lot of moms and stuff that wasn't able to shake that crack epidemic. What was it about your mom that made it so she was able to do what she needed to do as a parent? That I would even say that other parents weren't able to, that succumbed to, that crack. You know what I mean?
Bro, I'll tell you exactly what it was. So it wasn't because she was, you know what I mean? And this is my biggest thing. So, all right, so I'll come back to that question. But all right, so I was listening to this gentleman, Joe Rogan, and I don't know if anybody knows the Joe. He's big on MMA. He does some stand-up stuff. Anyway, during one of his stand-ups, you know what I mean? And it wasn't even that funny, but he said one of the craziest things to me. And he said, if people would just treat other people as if they were living their life, you know what I'm saying, their life, but basically in another shoes, then, the world will be a different place. The point of it is that, if I was young activists and I was raised the exact same way as young activists, and I was put in the exact same circumstances in the exact same environment, I would not be James Harvey. I would be young activist. It's the same thing with King Philip. If I was, you know what I'm saying, and me and Philip, we very similar. We came from, you know, the same places, but at the same time, you know, different things in how we were raised molded us different. But it ain't because of us personally, it's because of this environment. You know what I mean? So the point of what I'm saying, we even bringing in Joe Rogan and what he was saying is that we are all the exact same. We are all pretty much the same soul living different lives. You know what I'm saying? I'm even looking at this young lady. If I was born a woman and put in the same circumstances as her, I would be her. So where I'm circling back on all of that is speaking on my mother. So when you say, all right, what kept her straight? It's easy to think that, you know, it's just the person. Oh, my mom's just such a great person. And she is, but she was taught to be this. She was put in an environment where she was taught to be a everyday mom. She watched from my grandfather much more than I watched from him. And then she got from her mother, my grandfather's wife, whatever my grandfather was on the business side, my grandmother was at home. She was the perfect homemaker. Like I can only christen this lady as like the consummate woman. So what I'm saying is that my mother was taught in a way that she was prepared to be a mother. She was prepared her whole life to walk into those shoes. Now, my father, his dad died when he was 12. His mother was an alcoholic, used to come to school, embarrass him. So as he grew and became a father, those are the same things that he ended up almost being to me in my life. But it wasn't because he was a terrible person. It was because he was not prepared in that way. He wasn't prepared like my mother. He wasn't prepared like my mother in a way to even know what substances to stay away from, because she had to keep her mind clear. My father was raised in a way that was more loose, you know what I mean, with less discipline. So when he was subject to things that could ruin his life, or, you know, put around, you know, in certain situations, then it was just what it was. It wasn't because he was a bad person. He was just ill-equipped to fight these things. So that's what I would say about my mother. And I think that's what even makes me and I don't, you know, I've never been the type of guy to just kiss my own ass, pat my own back. I think I'm a good father. I want to continue to be a great father, but I was raised to be that. You know what I'm saying? Even my father falling into the drug habits that he fell into, he was such a good dude that he knew never to push any of that on me and my brother. I remember one time when me and my brother was about 13, 14 years old, my dad pulled us to the side. Man, he was like, yeah, when y'all turn about 16, I'm gonna show you a way to make some money. And he was talking about selling crack. You know what I'm saying? But he knew better. So when the time came, he never pushed that on us. You know what I'm saying? He never taught us in those ways. You know what I'm saying? Because he knew where it could possibly lead us. And despite the fact that he was going down a road that was going to take his life eventually, he knew better, and he knew what he wanted for his sons. He was just already caught up in that life. So what I'm saying about my mother is just her preparation, what her parents prepared her to be versus what my father was prepared to be. So even for us and going forward, and even me, I think it's preparation. And if you don't necessarily get that from home, even as a person, once you start, you know, you get 19, 20, 21, and you're not necessarily getting that preparation at home, you have to humble yourself and try to seek that out somewhere else, because you can get those lessons outside of the house. It sucks that a lot of us have to get it outside of the home, but preparation is going to be key into making sure that you can guide yourself and your family.
Thank you for that piece. And my second question, how did you avoid, gang banging, or did you?
And I did avoid gang banging. And, one of the main things, and I was talking to one of my cousins, and this isn't even to make a joke or to laugh at any, because many of the dudes who gang bang were my friends. Many of those dudes are dudes that I still respect and dudes that I still love. So in no way do I want to disrespect them. I honestly, the main thing that kept me from gang banging, despite the fact that my father eventually ended up on drugs and all of that stuff, he was a man, and he was there for me and my brother in such a way that I never thought that I had to be anything other than what my last name is. So, you know, where young dudes was running around my hood trying to be Crips and Bloods, you got to understand a lot of them were searching for identity. And when you don't have that male influence in the house, then you're going to search for it outside of the house. And a lot of the times in our neighborhoods, especially in the 80s and the 90s, then you got that identity from street niggas that was right there on the street. So it wasn't that. I think that, once again, I don't think that I just avoided it. I was raised and given, I had an identity. My father gave me my identity. So I didn't have to go outside of the house to look for one. You know, when I left outside of the house, I didn't look to say, you know what I mean, I was a Blood or a Crip, where a lot of my friends and relatives did. I had a cousin whose father, he committed suicide and was on drugs, but a lot earlier than mine. So this happened when he was probably about 7 or 8. So by the time he was in middle school, he was searching for that identity. You know what I mean? He had the same grandparents I had a great mother also, but no father. So when you have no father, you know, a woman, is hard to take her lead to teach you how to be a man. You're going to end up going out there looking for the big homies, looking for your friends, looking at their fathers. And a lot of us just get the bad influence. So, you know, when you talk about what kept me from banging, it was my father giving me my identity. He taught me who I was, and I always looked up to him. I never wanted to be any, despite, once again, I talk about my father, but my father and what he became as a drug addict, but he was a hell of a guy. Yeah, hell of a fellow is what I would say. You know what I mean? He just, you know, he walked into a room and he commanded attention. You know, he was a humble dude, not really a, you know, boastful dude, but just had a lot of love for people. Wasn't flashy, but, you know, looked good when he needed to. Down to earth, mess with everybody in the neighborhood. So when I was growing up as a young man, I used to just respect him, and I never thought that I needed to be anything else. So if you want to ask me anything that kept me away from banging, it was my dad and him giving me my identity. And then, you know, secondly, and I can't leave this out, I really can't. You know, when I was in middle school, in my 5th grade year in elementary school, I had a Jewish teacher who, for some reason, took a hell of a liking to me. And she mentioned to my mother about this school called Colorado Academy. So, you know, my mother did her due diligence, her research. She went and found out about the school. They put me through an aptitude test. I went and checked out the school, and I wanted to go to Cole. I wanted to go to school with my friends, but they sent me to this school out on Hampton and Pierce. And so from 6th grade through my junior year in high school, despite the fact I lived in the community, I used to get on the bus at 6 a.m., go out to school and not come back till 5. So I didn't have that same influence. And, you know, to be honest with you, I think that if I was in the community, and, you know, I think if I would have went to Manual or had been in the community, it would have been a lot higher chances of me gangbanging, because it was just so prevalent. And at that time, it was just in, especially being a Crip. When I grew up, you know what I mean? That was the Snoop Dogg and, you know, the Dog Pound and, you know, all of that era. So, you know, being a Crip was the shit back in the day. You know what I'm saying? For real. So, you know, it was my daddy giving me my identity, and then them honestly keeping me focused and always active in things that kept me out of that element in the community.
Right on, right on. Thank you for that. Go ahead, G, holla at him.
Okay, so you kind of, you know, touched on a couple of my questions already, but you know, how are you seeing, because, you know, we seen baby girl, so she's young, but how are you seeing your upbringing influence and affect the way that you are becoming a father?
You know what? You know, my main thing now, you know what I'm saying, is I just want to be around. And that's the thing that I got from my grandfather. So my father, so I'm a Harvey, my mother's a Chapman. So on my dad's, you know, I've been the oldest male in my family since I was 20 years old. So my brother is the second oldest. So there are no more Harvey males. You know what I mean? So my father died when he was 47. His dad died when he was like right in his mid 40s. So we haven't even had a Harvey male reach 50 in the last, I'll be the first in 3 generations to reach 50. But, you know, this is where I think that I owe so much to my mother's side of the family, just because I tell you, you know, I'm a businessman, so I want to get out here. I want to make my money. I want to do all of those different type of things. But the most impressive thing, one of the most impressive things I've ever seen in my whole life is what my grandfather was able to achieve. And the fact that he has 6 grown children, his baby girl 65, they're all still living. He's gone now, but that's what influences me to want to be around. So, you know, with her, I'm just focused on, you know, staying healthy, being healthy, and making sure that, you know, I can stay and manage in her life, you know, for, you know, as long as possible. So I just look forward to, you know, being in her life, you know, through my 70s and being the type of man that can give her some guidance. I'll tell you this, man. I was reading some books, a banking book about the Morgan family, J.P. Morgan, and it's called The House of Morgan. And it was talking about J.P. Morgan and when he was in his like 80s and 90s and still giving his 50, 60-year-old son advice, still giving his son advice. And I want to be that father. I want to be the 60, 70-year-old father who's still there for their children. So I think that's what really pushes me and really focuses me now is just longevity, man. I just want to be here, you know what I'm saying, to be healthy mentally and spiritually for my family.
I love that. Thank you for that. And then just a follow up, as a girl dad, you know, what are some of the things that you um feel are top focus to instill into your daughter?
You know, so man, confidence number one, you know what I'm saying? Even having, you know what I'm saying, a chocolate daughter, dark skin, I want her to know that she is just as valuable as anything in this world. You know what I mean? I think, you know, a lot of women and a lot of our women, you know, just because of the images that are forced upon us daily, you know what I mean? And how many of these images are put into our heads that, you know, sometimes our women could kind of suffer from feeling like they're being overlooked. And, you know, my main thing is to make sure that she knows that she is not overlooked. It's funny just because her father wasn't necessarily around, you know what I mean? And even some of her friends, and it's kind of crazy to me just because I even look at her mother sometimes and I always wonder, like, you know, how could your father, you know, not be there for you, just who you are as a black woman. And you know what I'm saying? The fact that, you know, you are such a beautiful light to the world. But, you know, my main thing is to instill in her confidence within herself, number one, and then just to make her understand that she can live a worldly existence. You know what I mean? That she is not limited in any type of way. And I want her to be comfortable. And talking about a woman, I want her to be comfortable in her own shoes. You know what I mean? I want her to be comfortable with her hair. I want her to be comfortable with her skin. And, you know, I want her to be comfortable as she is so that she's not trying to be out here impressing a man, you know what I'm saying, in a way that she thinks that he wants. You know what I mean? But in the end of the day, you know, what you are and your confidence is what's going to speak for you. So that's my biggest thing with her is just making sure she's confident, knows she's more than enough, and that, you know, she's comfortable in her own skin.
Thank you for that answer too. And then just one more follow up. The young activist, I'm not going to keep pushing. But do you want more? Like, do you want to have a son?
I want 3. I want 3. And be honest with you, I ain't gonna lie to you. I would, man, if I would have started early. I'm 37 now. I had her when I was 34. And you know, I would have more, you know what I'm saying? To be honest with you, I ain't gonna lie to you. And I'm not saying nothing. My brother, him and his girl, they don't have kids. They're in their mid-30s. And I'm not knocking nobody for the way that they choose to live. If you don't want to have kids, and that's fine, you can still live a beautiful life and a life that, you know, means something and has, you know what I'm saying, has a lot of meaning and worthwhile. So don't think I'm saying that at all. But I'm not gonna lie, for me, more than any money or any business that I could leave to this world, the best thing that I feel that I could leave is responsible, like committed, you know what I'm saying, like human beings that are giving back to society. So, you know, I want kids. I want at least 3. You know what I mean? If for some reason 4 comes, you know what I'm saying, I take 4. But yeah, I want more kids. I love kids.
That's dope. That's dope. I love that. Okay, young activist, go ahead. It's on you.
All right, Mr. Harvey, how you doing today, my
Hey,
brother?
what's going on, bro? How you been?
Man, you know, out here doing it,
I
making
feel
money,
you,
making
bro.
moves, out here hustling, you know?
That's what we all got to do, bro. I'm hearing you.
Hey, that's a beautiful thing. Hey, so I do got a question for you. Being a real estate broker and all, and during this pandemic, you know, of course, you got your business around the clock moves, and of course, James Harvey Compass. What motivated you to become a real estate broker? You know what I'm saying? And is there a benefit to help your people with that type of occupation?
Man, definitely. You know what I mean, bro? All right, so this is my biggest thing. So even, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this. So I actually wanted to be a real estate agent first. That's like the first business I ever wanted to get in. So when I was 19, I went and got my real estate license. So I've had my real estate license for almost 18 years now. And, you know, my whole point in getting it, I'm not going to lie. So my parents, I talk about my dad and, you know, his drug addiction and all of that. But my parents were real estate agents. So they dabbled in real estate when I was young. Neither one of them was full time, but they would do deals here and there, help their friends, help other people in the community. So I kind of grew up around the business and I saw what it could be if it was really a full-time business and you were really focused on it. So that was the first business that I really wanted to get in. But when I was 19, I didn't have the clientele around me. You know, obviously your friends at 19 ain't nobody buying houses, especially in the hood. So you talking about 19-year-old kid. I'm trying to push more to, you know, older people. So it was hard to sustain myself. You know what I mean? And I couldn't. And it was I did a couple deals. They would come here and there, but it wasn't enough to really sustain me, like I was saying. So, you know, I was really looking for a job to sustain me while I was building my real estate career. And that's how we found moving. But moving, once I learned the business, it was like, damn, you know, me and my brother are, you know, we're very physical dudes and we pick up things very quickly. So we learned that whole business. And, you know, from, you know, doing the smallest move to the largest move in Cherry Hills, $1 million home out there, we learned how to do things perfectly. Started around the clock movers. And then, you know, what was beautiful about that is it allowed us the first thing to do something together. So, you know, me, my brother, and one of my cousins who was a blood, you know what I'm saying? We run that business and we've owned it for 10 years. So that's what got me. So just to answer what got me into real estate, that's how long I've been. But once we got around the clock movers, like situated in a way and successful enough in a way to where, you know, I could step away some, then, you know, now was just kind of the opportune time where it was like, bro, I need to go full ahead with this real estate because now, unlike when I was 19, I also have something that no other real estate agent can offer. So anybody who comes to buy a home through me, now we take care of all of your relocation, all of your packing, everything for free. And I know how to do that. We've been doing that professionally for 10 years to the highest level. So, I mean, you know, now I can do that for free for clients, save people thousands of dollars, a lot of time, heartache, all of that different type of stuff. So that opportunity came about really now that we got now around the clock movers straight. My brother and my cousin can run the daily operations over there. I can work full time in real estate, but we bring it all together as one. And you know what keeps me motivated, bro, is the fact that you got to understand how bad I feel not purchasing more real estate when I was young, but my head wasn't on right. You know what I mean? And you don't have to be rich to purchase real estate. As long as you out here, you got a decent job, you about your business, you're saving money, you can find you a spot. But what hurts me is that we really could have did this in my early 20s. So now, man, I'm so focused on, you know, making sure my people get financially literate because we still doing stuff like keeping shoe boxes full of money underneath the bed and, you know, thinking that, you know, because we saving a whole lot of cash that means something. And
Right.
bro, it doesn't. You need to be putting that money somewhere where it can grow for you. And the only way we're going to start doing this is by becoming financially literate. So, you know, the stock market, building businesses, and then real estate. You know, that's one of the biggest ways to do this. And the only way, that's why we lost our neighborhood, is because we don't have the ownership to make sure that we have say so. And when you have ownership in your neighborhood, you dictate what goes on there. So, you know, now being a real estate agent, bro, I want to hook up with as many young Black people as I possibly can, as many of my friends as I possibly can, and make sure that they understand what real estate can do for their lives. You know, because outside of an agent, of course, I'm in this to make money on commissions for helping people and doing that type of stuff. But bro, there's so much to be made and so many people making so much money in real estate. You know what I mean? Just watching their money grow by, you know, having it in the home and, you know, building off of this equity, that is just retarded. You know, you got to understand that there have been places in Denver this year that have appreciated 20%. So imagine on a $400,000 house, your home is appreciating $20,000 every 100. You know what I mean? That's $80,000 you made this year just by owning a home. You know what I'm saying? So like, we got to get in the game. Like, now it's to the point where, you know, we saw what like people like my father and then went through with the crack epidemic and all of those situations. Now we don't have no excuse. And you know what I'm saying? Despite the fact that we've been set up to be put in a lower position, we got to join together and start getting into this game. And one of the biggest things, like I said, real estate, figuring out this stock market and investments, and building businesses for sure.
Word. Yeah, you hit that on the head, man. As detailed as possible. I like that. I do got a question though. So what's your slogan when it comes to your business? Is it is it at your castle real estate? Like what is your slogan? Like what's
my fault. So, and you probably saw, so I'm a part of Compass Real Estate now. I used to be a part of a business called Your Castle.
Okay.
But you know what? So like at Around the Clock Movers, if you were thinking about you know, a slogan, our slogan is "We got this." You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's in the back all our little stripes.
He was
You know what I mean?
ready.
Ain't no thing.
He
But yeah,
was
that's our
ready.
slogan. You know what I mean? Is we got this. And to be honest with you, on real estate, I don't necessarily have like a specific slogan like that, but I can tell you what my mission is. And you know, my mission is to provide the most comprehensive moving, relocation, and real estate services to, you know, as many people as possible across the state of Colorado. So, you know, at the end of the day, you know, anybody that comes to do business with me, I want to make sure that you're taken care of the whole way around. You know what I mean? I literally want people to buy homes from me and then move into that home and not have anything to do. You know what I'm saying? I want to take all the stress off of people's backs. So, you know, I see myself as just a problem solver, and, you know, and somebody that can, you know, brings value.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so then last question. So let's talk about finances like we've been talking for a quick second. You know, Black people, especially within our communities, we tend to be very aloof or distant when it comes to speaking on, you know, our financial situation. Especially like, I mean, one time I was a kid, I asked my mom because my teacher told us to ask like what our parents' annual income is for like a project, and she didn't tell me because she said it was none of my business. And you know, white folk though, they tend to usually allow their children to understand what their annual like their financial situation is, so they can understand financial literacy at a younger age, or at least know what they're rocking with. I got this is a question you could add on to yourself and like answer in your own way. But I do have a question for you. Like, you having children, do you plan on being transparent with speaking with money about like what you rocking with and everything and the whole nine?
Bro, I love that question just because, man, I think that it's our duty to be transparent. It's not even just financially, it's in through our love lives. That's why a lot of us fail relationship wise, because our parents, because they went through such tumultuous situations, it's shame. A lot of it comes from, I'm embarrassed. I don't want to tell what that was like for me, what I went through. You know, you might not be where you want to be financially, so now you're embarrassed, so you don't want to share those things. You know, your children are going out into school and may be dealing with other kids whose parents are more successful. So it makes sense, and I understand it, but we have got to get out of that. We have got to get out of that shame and embarrassment and just understand that regardless of wherever you're starting, it's okay. I plan to be completely transparent with my child, and you know, because I want her to be better than me. You know what I'm saying? I want her to learn from my faults and, from all the pitfalls that I went through. You know what I mean? What people don't understand is that if you really save your money and invest and do the right things when you're young, you literally could have a $50,000 a year job your whole life and still live a fantastic life where you have fun and reach your dreams. It's just all about that investment. But once again, I think the biggest thing, once again, bro, is shame and, that embarrassment. And Black people, we have got to, heal. I think that's where we're at, because we have got to give ourselves a little bit of leeway with not necessarily being all the way, you know what I mean, aware of everything that's going on financially, because we were kept out a lot of that stuff. So it's only natural that, you know what I mean, that we're behind. You know what I mean? And I know that we're behind, but that's where we start to grow. Is just saying, you know what, we're behind. And guess what? Because of that, I'm going to do double time to make sure that I catch up. So, I mean, the biggest thing with Black people is that we have got to let go of that embarrassment and anything that you feel about being less than, and realize that what you don't understand is that the people that you fronting for, a lot of them are going through the exact same situations. And if you will really just open your mouth, then everybody else will be like, you know what? I'm going through that too. You know what? I'm going through that too. This is what we can do to get out of this. This is how we can build together. But why everybody is just, none of your business. Get out of here, boy. Get out of grown people's, you know what I'm saying, business. You don't need to know none of that. We're never going to get nowhere. And then our children are going to just keep repeating the same patterns. I got back on, I jumped on love. I think that's one of the biggest things. Some of the worst people, and I hate to say this, some of the worst people to ask about love advice are literally older people, because they think back on their love, on their old lives, and they want to romanticize their youth. So instead of being real about the stuff that went bad in their youth, they romanticize it. Everything was great. Everything was beautiful. But your husband had a child outside of wedlock. Your husband used to beat on you. You constantly used to have, arguments. We have to be real with these things. I try to tell people all the time, even the situations that I go through with her mother, like, I'm candid about this stuff, and I have no problem with sharing it, because I know that everybody goes through it. It's just, once you have children and once you are in these type of relationships, you're going to run into situations that, you know what I'm saying, are ill, and only adults are going to know how to handle and go through. But just be honest. Don't be afraid to let people know, you know what, my relationship might not be, you know what I'm saying, everything I want it to be right now, but I'm trying to get better. You got any advice? What about your situation? So, man, my biggest thing, young activists, like I said, I intend on being completely transparent about my love and finances. And I think the biggest way that we as Black people can heal ourselves from that is just relieving ourselves of that embarrassment and, shame.
Beautiful thing, beautiful thing. Hey, G, you said you had something to say? Oh, I guess you don't.
Okay, my
All
bad,
right,
y'all.
word.
My bad.
No, you good.
Anyways, okay. So, Mr. Harvey, what do you want to be remembered for?
Man, I mean, one thing I want to be remembered almost like, it's crazy. My grandfather, he set the standard for me in so many ways. And I'm not going to just say so many ways, because my mother, my father, and not just my grandfather, but his accomplishment, I swear, I'll repeat it over and over. This man has 6 children. His baby girl is 65. His oldest son is 76. And all of these children are still living. All of them are fine and prosperous. Like, if that's not the legacy every man should fight for, I don't know what it is. So, I want to say that I had longevity, and that my children were educated, and that they lived and traveled and, had amazing lives. So I want to have that longevity, but then I just want, despite the fact that I'm a businessman and I'm always on my business and I'm always trying to make money, I don't want money to be my legacy. I want giving back to be my legacy. I want to be education and longevity. So I'm just saying those 3 things: giving back, education, longevity, you know what I'm saying? And, just that love for my people. You know what I mean? I want people to look back on me and say he loved and he did for his people.
That's dope. I love that. Go ahead, King Philip. I know you got one.
I was gonna say, what would you say is the biggest issue in our community and in our culture?
Man, the biggest issue, and then you know what I'm saying. That's a loaded question, but I'm not gonna lie, bro. I think that all right, and when I so family, I think that a lot of family structure, that love, knowing how to love, you know what I'm saying, and family structure. And when I say family structure, I'm not even necessarily talking about, marriage. Everybody has their different ideas on marriage. So I think that everybody should be able to choose that. But I think that what's similar to all of us is that we all look for love and community. And I think that everybody has, what I'm saying, a right to that. So, when you thinking about, the biggest problem that we have, I think it's just that separation and not knowing how to come together to really prosper. You know what I'm saying? Like we're too much of individuals right now. You know what I'm saying? And don't get me wrong, I'm all for living your life, doing your thing. I'm one of the biggest proponents of that. I hope my daughter lives her individual life. But at some point, it's got to be about more than me. About some point, it's got to be about more than me and mine, or you and yours, or Park Hill and the East Side. At some point, it's got to be about all of us. And I think that there it is, not seeing the bigger picture, and then not having the community structure, because I think that that's what's taken away from a lot of our power, is the fact that we can't reach back to groups of us in large numbers in communities that really care, that can make a difference. You know what I'm saying? It's always just like a handful here, a handful there, or black women or black men. To me, the biggest thing is we have got to find, it's crazy, man, even talking about this shit, because I think it takes me back to movies. And it was like a movie, it was like, man, I can't remember. Somebody said something that was like, I can't remember what he said, but it was like black unity. In some movie, it was like, bro, it ain't never gonna happen. It's crazy. And I do believe it can happen. But man, literally, like that unity amongst ourselves, because this is, I don't envy anybody for anything, but one genius that I check out about white people is that they've made a situation, and they made it so that the lowest of them can succeed at the highest of levels. You know what I'm saying? So, with us, we have got to find a way to bring each other up and, move as a unit, instead of just, being comfortable with one or two. But yeah. So yeah, man, I would say that's just the biggest thing. The unity, once again, between all of us is the biggest thing, man. We can't single each other out. We can't point the finger. You know what I mean? We have got to realize that we're all working on our issues together. So, and that's the only possible way that we're gonna do anything. I don't care what James Harvey does. I don't care what billionaire Robert, what I'm saying, Smith does. I don't care what Jay-Z does. Unless we do this as a unit and together, we ain't gonna accomplish nothing. So, that unity, man, and that community is the biggest thing that I think is lacking in amongst black people.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Thank you. Go ahead, young activist.
Oh man, I'm gonna start asking everybody this, but this is a great question to start this off of. What books do you recommend to adults, especially young adults, to read that helps create drive or like the passion you got right now?
Okay, so for me, man, and I love reading, man. So what I mean. There's a lot of different. So for one, you definitely need to reach back into your culture. You know what I'm saying? You need to go pick up some of those books, the autobiography of Malcolm X. You need to pick up Frederick Douglass's autobiography. You know what I'm saying? And read back to understand, and not just them. And you got to get at some of these women. You know what I mean? I read Asada Shakur's book. There's so many different books that I draw from, but I think that you have to do two things. You have to reach into our culture to understand who we are. So that means reaching back into the minds of great black people who really cared about their people, because they're going to give you insight into why things are the way that they are, and real insight because they really come from who we are. Now, the second thing that I think that really we need to be focused on is human nature and psychology. So, some of my favorite books are written by Robert Greene. So the 48 Laws of Power, Human Nature, the 33 Strategies of War, the 50th Law that he wrote in conjunction with 50 Cent. He also wrote The Art of Seduction. All of these different books. I would recommend them to everybody just because they show you the psychology on how people think. And the 48 Laws of Power specifically, and not even just that one, because all of these books that he has kind of breaks him down. He also has a book called Mastery. You know what I'm saying? That's an amazing, amazing book. You know what I'm saying? For any young entrepreneur, go get Mastery. If you're thinking about trying to build a business, make some money, go get Mastery and the 48 Laws of Power, because it's going to tell you how to think from like a serious business standpoint or business mind. So you can't go wrong picking up any of Robert Greene's books, but then I'm definitely going to challenge you to make sure that you're reaching back into our people. My favorite book in all of life is the Norton Anthology of American Literature. Now, I would literally tell all of y'all to also pick that book up because it has complete works of some of the greatest minds in American history, but that has Frederick Douglass' book in it. It has W.E.B. Du Bois in it. It has Langston Hughes in it. It has Zora Neale Hurston in it. It has a slave named Oladu Equiano, who talks about when he was captured by blacks in Africa and sold to white people to be slaved in America. So, you got to do your history, and you have got to get into the minds of some of these people. If you have questions about like ancient Kemet, which I did, I went to Egypt, read about Cleopatra, read about these people. But just to break it down, so I'm not going everywhere, just starting, I'm telling you right now, read once again the autobiography of Malcolm X. You also need to read Frederick Douglass. I would also pick up Assata Shakur to mix in some ladies within that, and then pick up for psychology, how to move, teaching you how to move in a gangster business way, teaching you how to move just in one of the, the best mental ways ever, so that you playing chess and not checkers. Pick up Robert Greene's books. I'm telling y'all, go to a library next time you can, or a bookstore, or just get on Amazon and pick up those books. They have molded my mind business wise in more ways than I can ever tell you.
That's dope, man. I'm sorry, I was mesmerized real fast. I was thinking, I ain't even gonna lie to you.
You good, bro? You good? I'm hoping I'm giving y'all some information.
Nah, yeah, definitely. I was just like, okay, what book do I need to start off? Because I've read a lot of Black history books with like Malcolm X, Assata Shakur.
Hey, bro, start off with Mastery and Human Nature. If you mess with Robert Greene, or if you end up grabbing one of those books, all of the rest of them you'll fill in. But start with Mastery, because, bro, it breaks down like how you should really be looking for a mentor, how to look for a mentor, how to get better and identify different, identify your strengths. Mastery is incredible, bro. And Human Nature, oh shit, that breaks down how people move, how they act, how they function, why they do what they do. Bro, it's incredible. So if you're gonna think about Robert Greene's book, start with Mastery or Human Nature.
Word, definitely appreciate that. And y'all hear that? Everybody watching, and the young people up here too. We gotta be hopping on that. But definitely appreciate you. And G, you wanna end it off with yours?
Yes, this is this. Okay, so I had a different question, but this time, from your story and what you've given us, what is one, solid piece of advice that you can leave with us and our viewers, that we can just take with us? One solid gem.
Shit, I'll tell you right now, and it was just what young activists, what we was just talking about. Please read. You read and read and read. There ain't nothing better that you can do for your life than pick up a book. All of the millionaire secrets, everything that you want to know is sitting right behind the pages of them books. You know what I'm saying? Do y'all understand that the reason why we need lawyers is because they're basically masters at the English language, and basically they just read more than everyone and can decipher and understand contracts and how things are able to go. Why do you think so many brothers go to jail and end up damn near prison lawyers? It's because now they sit down and they have to read. But what if you read before you went to jail? What if you prepared yourself before you were put in these certain circumstances? There is nothing more that you could do better in your life. And if there is one thing that you take from me, pick up a book. Go read something that's going to teach you something, that's going to further your life, that you're going to be able to take with you and pass down to your children, and that you're going to be able to take with you and pull one of your homeboys to the side and say, bro, you know what? I heard you starting this business. You know what? I see where you're going wrong just because, I just got some knowledge out of this book about that. Let me pass you this information and this knowledge. If there's nothing that you don't take from me, please read, because whatever you want to be, all you got to do is start educating yourself, and that is just through reading. So read.
Best way to hide a secret from a black man is to put it in the book.
Bro, I'm telling you, and it's unfortunate.
Yes, absolutely. And we want to thank you for joining us here on our platform, sharing your story with us. We do want to invite you back for part 2. Hey, baby. If you would, we would love to have you back for a part 2.
Hey, much love. Hey, man, I commend y'all on what y'all doing. Hey, man, Philip, I appreciate you for him. You include me in all of this, man. I have a ball when I do this. I love this. Is how we create change, is by what y'all doing. I'm trying to tell you, getting on these platforms, asking questions, passing knowledge. I learn from y'all. Y'all learn from us. Like, this is how we do it. And this is how we make our communities better. So, the MACM community, I just want to say, man, I'm behind y'all 100%.
That's a bet, right on.
Appreciate it, man.
So,
drop jewels today. But at this time, man, we definitely love to, like G said, invite you to a part 2. And then really just give you your flowers, man. You dropped a lot of jewels on us today. We didn't even get through half of your story. It was just nothing but knowledge, man. We appreciate it.
I'm glad I could help.
No doubt. But at this time, we'd like to give you our flowers, our MACM 3 snaps, so everybody could come off mute. 1, 2, 3.
Show me some love. Much love, man.
Yeah, man, we appreciate you, man. Really dope, man. You was really dope.
Hey, man, y'all need me, just holla at me, man. Hey, round 2, whatever, bro. I'm here for y'all.
Hey, yes, sir. We do appreciate it. But to our viewers at this time, we'd like to invite you all to like all of our social media platforms at Make a Chess Move -MACM, Make a Culture Move, Virtual Artist Storytelling, our YouTube at Make a Chess Move -MACM. Get our subscribers up. We're trying to hit 100. Make sure y'all tap into that. Our website, makeachessmove.org, Facebook MACM 303, Instagram MACM 303, Twitter MACM 303, and our Pinterest is MACM 303. Look out for our MACM virtual workshop. We got that coming up real soon. We should be spring break for mostly everybody. Yeah, all of that. Look out, we gonna send out our flyers. But with that being said, we appreciate you, Mr. Harvey. You've been really dope. Looking forward to having your part 2. One of our facilitators will reach out to you on that end. But with that being said, and cop some MACM apparel. I almost forgot about that one. But with that being said, y'all MACM out there, we appreciate you again, sir.